So, good morning. I have to take my glasses off so I can see you. Today, I'm going to talk about Kratky hydroponics. Has anybody ever done hydroponics? All right. Did anybody listen to the garden hour in December, where the speaker did a survey of all the traditional hydroponics? Okay, well, listen, he did a really beautiful job surveying all the traditional hydroponics. It's a great background in history and all that. And I'm not going to talk about any of that. I'm going to talk about Kratky hydroponics. First of all, this is my agenda for today. I'm going to do a one-sentence thing about hydroponics, a fair amount of bullet points on advantages for hydroponics, a brief thing of the advantages of Kratky hydroponics. It's a selling opportunity. And then I'm going to talk about what grows well, how to set up a Kratky system. My goal for you today is so that when you leave here, you know enough to go, I'm going to do this with my kids in my class, with my grandkids, because I want to be the best grandparent ever, right after me, because I'm the best grandparent. And then a little brief thing about starting plants and how to get it started up, and then any questions you have. And by the way, I have a list of references that's pretty extensive. I've tried to pare them down. So if you actually are interested in doing this, and you didn't take enough notes, because this is going to be chock full, then I've got that available for you. I can send it by email. All righty. Hydroponics. It's a method to grow plants without soil. That's the total thing. So I'm going to ask you again, has anybody ever tried to grow a plant without soil? Okay, I expect to see every hand, because I know everybody has done a cutting in water. Because your grandmother showed you how to do that, right? Okay, that's hydroponics. Kratky is hydroponics, but it's actually developed by a guy named B.A. Kratky from the University of Hawaii, because there was somebody who sent information where I used to be in the demo garden. And that video, that's the way the guy said, I'm going to show you Kratky from the University of Hawaii. But it was really, it changed how I approached hydroponics, that's for sure. I don't know how I got her back up there, but that's okay. Okay, the advantages to hydroponics. Number one, and this may make sure everybody gets fed fresh food, you can grow hydroponics in places where the soil, or for whatever, soil is not suitable, whether it's contaminated, whether it's in a dead desert. That's one of the places where hydroponics is going to make a difference in how we approach feeding people worldwide if we have to. It gives you a more complete control over nutrients, pH, and growing environment. That means temperature and moisture and enough calcium and all that. You can grow year round. Most hydroponics happens inside under a cover in a greenhouse. That's not what I'm going to talk to you about today. But hydroponics can feed us year round, wherever we are. It uses less water than traditional soil-based systems. We care about water. We care about clean water, and we care about being frugal with our water. It allows for faster growth and higher yields than traditional soil-based systems. There's a fair amount of evidence that proves that plants don't have to work as hard to consume their nutrients, so they grow faster. And it eliminates soil-related insects, fungi, and bacteria. And this is one reason why I cared about it, because my garden in North Carolina had root knot nematodes. And that is devastating to tomatoes. And that's the reason for gardening. No weeding or cultivation. That means anyone can do this. They do not have to be able to bend over. Just saying. Crop rotation is not necessary. So for those with small vegetable gardens that need to rotate, you can get by without crop rotation. And if you do it right, not wrong, but if you do it right, you can reduce transplant shock. Now, Kratky is a very, very simple, low maintenance method. It is significantly less expensive than other systems. My husband got me a couple of traditional hydroponics things. The two sets were like $50 a piece, and they required electricity, and I had to change the solution in them every week to 10 days. And so I got 2 tomatoes out of the deal. And I took the pictures of it out, but I was so proud to have gotten anything, but I knew there were technical issues. I had it in the wrong place, hurricanes, things like that. So that didn't work for me. And so Kratky is much cheaper. Kratky requires no electronic equipment, pumps, wicks, air stones, electricity. It is great for off-grid hydroponics, and it costs a whole lot less. It is a great system for children and beginners because it's a low financial output and it takes a lot less work. It does not require the amount of monitoring that a traditional hydroponic system requires. And if you had watched that radio, the garden tour, the garden hour in December, you would realize how much effort it goes. Now, how do hydroponic plants differ from other plants? Really, they don't. They still need light. They still need water. They need a pH balanced source of nutrition. They need a structural support. With in-soil plants, that's soil. But in hydroponics, that's different. There's airflow for the leaves, but the part where hydroponics struggles the most and has to take accommodations is the airflow through the roots. And they need a place to grow. Dirt or a bucket and a lid. Kratky requires a lid, the others don't so much. Now, how can you leave a plant in water without a bubbler or something accommodating the roots? Well, Kratky came up with this really, this cool way of doing it. University of Hawaii, he was there for a number of years. He has a couple of YouTube videos on Kratky, and I have a reference to one of his scientific articles if you're interested. But basically, it starts out, you start the plant. I'll show you my plant. Okay, here it is. This is a starter. This is basil. It's my favorite thing to grow. And it is in, I do this all over my kitchen a lot. But I'm going to pull this out so you can see it. All right. So when this started out, can you see this? All right. Well, take my, oh, there's the camera. Oh, okay. Do you see that this is a lid, a container, that's a neck cup. I'm going to pass those around in a minute. This has been in its container for a while because I wanted to make sure I had something with roots so I could show you. And so what happens is when the plant uses the solution up, and it does, it's a closed system, it develops air roots. So the naked roots in there, those are air roots. So the plant will continue to breathe and the roots will go down in the solution. That's it. That's a total deal. That's how that aerates. That's why it doesn't need a bubbler or a flow or anything else. Just so you know, these are neck cups. And I'm going to flash it to these guys. That's a neck cup. So if you guys want to look at them, I'm going to let you put your hands on them. All right. So that's where you grow. Yes, ma'am. NET. So what grows well in this system? Because it's pretty abbreviated compared to those fancy pumps and all that kind of stuff. Fast growing short season plants are the ones that are going to do the best. Lettuce, spinach, herbs. My favorite herb is basil. I'm going to try some other herbs this year. Kale and other leafy greens. Last year I had good success with kale. This year I was going for Asian greens that had low light requirements. This is topsoil. I have it in green and red. This is a beautiful plant, isn't it? I haven't been eating them because I wanted to make sure I had something good to show you. Okay, so no, they range from like 1 to 4. And Joanne gave me one that's about this big that she gets from cheese. Zingo. Joanne, Zingo. And, it's ricotta. You could grow a tree in that thing. And there are people who grow trees in hydroponics, but not this kind. The other thing that I have had good luck with are cucumbers. If you went out to the demo garden last year, you would have seen cucumbers growing with hydroponics. I had one tomato that I grew this way. I cannot find a picture of it. So I started another. Now, I have to say, so this is a micro tomato. It's flowered. And I think one of these has started some fruiting. But this is a micro tomato. And I love this plant and I use it as a pet, but also like for demos. And this is growing in a peanut butter jar. I inhale peanut butter, so I have a lot of it. Okay, cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, but cucumbers, tomatoes, peppers, and I can't remember. I don't think I've done eggplant. They need larger containers. So here is a cucumber in my backyard a couple of years ago. Now, cucumbers, according to this first video I saw, require 60 gallons. This is a recycled pickle barrel I got off Craigslist. It has a screw top. And so this did beautifully. And do you see the roots on this thing? Okay, that's what happens at the end of the season if you do it right. Basil. Okay. I love pesto. My husband made the best pesto in the world, and he taught me how to do it. This is in a demo garden where I used to volunteer, and it is growing. 4 basil plants are growing in a 27-gallon bucket, tote, you know, the ones that you find everywhere. And you can see what the roots look like. I'm holding it in my very attractive getup for gardening. And, you know, the roots are like this. Now, I got 3 harvests out of that basil. Now, Kratky assumes that you're going to have a container big enough So you go to the end of the season and you just fill it up once and let it go. But those would have to be awful big. So with this one, I refilled it 21 gallons in that 27-gallon bucket. And then I put another 15 gallons in to get to the end of the season. This is what we had. It's what I had last year. The blue one was in the demo garden out here, and the white one is that black bucket that I had previously, but I was afraid I was cooking the roots because the roots just didn't look right, and that wasn't the issue. I think I discovered the issue. But anyway, basil, cucumbers do beautifully. I did a 1 year for the demo garden I had before. I was growing one of these just like this, and we had a hurricane, and flooded the barrel. They wouldn't let us back into the arboretum for a week, and my cucumber died. So it's really important that the roots continue to have their air roots available. But that's okay, because I just took it out. We had a long, long season. I planted watermelons, and we got fruit. But I didn't get a picture of it because the team leader had it and I forgot to ask her for it. This is an up close of bell peppers in that 27-gallon bucket, that 27-gallon tote. I had to add fertilizer here, but just lift it off, look in, and if the roots are getting too near the bottom, you just add more juice. This was really too many peppers in 27 gallons. This tote could have supported 2 just fine. Thank you very much. This is this year's batch for this. The blue jar I told you is a peanut butter jar. On the right, the one in front, the red one is red tot soy. The one in the upper left is a dwarf pak choi. The one on the big one on the right, those are 2-gallon buckets, and that's what this is probably this green tot soy. And the little yogurt cup in the middle, that is Mizuna. These are Asian greens, and the reason I picked them this year is because I hadn't grown them before, and I also needed something for a low gardening and low light. And Mother Earth News says that tot soy needs 2 hours of sunshine. I want to know if that's really true, so I'm trying it out this year. What do you need to do Kratky hydroponics? Water, vinegar, some sort of food-safe container with a lid, a net cup or equivalent. People have used other things, but I'm telling you, if you're doing this first time, just use a net cup. Some sort of growing medium to be the support for the roots. So this is clay pebbles. I use that for everything. This is, and you can open these up. Just know that they will go fine. They jump out of the jar. This is rock wool, and and then the bag that's starting the back, Kevin brought me some shredded rock wool. I didn't know it came in that form. The only form I had seen was the one in the little cubes. Rock wool is the salt and slag steel heated up and spun around like cotton candy. It has a 17% air, so it is a really good way to grow hydroponics. But hydroponic things. You can also use coconut coir for Kratky, because there's no place for it to get stuck if it escapes. Perlite, I tried that. I'm a fan of rock wool supported with the clay pebbles. Yeah, so it doesn't, and I've got a picture of what I did with perlite, and I can see some advantages to it if I try it again. The other thing you need is some sort of hydroponic fertilizer. For most of the references I've seen for Kratky, use a thing called Master Blend. It is balanced for tomatoes and other growing vegetables. Any hydroponic solution you use for green growth applies. This particular one I've had really good luck with, because even if you grow things that fruit, like tomatoes, you don't get blossom end rot. Some of the others, I've seen that people have shown blossom end rot with hydroponics. So if you're going to go about doing this, you need water, vinegar, a container, something to put the plant in that will hold so that its roots can go down in solution, some sort of growth medium. Coconut coir, rock wool, clay pebbles, and perlite are used, and this fertilizer. You also need, or at least I need, to protect my fingers from drilling a hole, is a hole saw. Now, this saw, and they come in all different sizes. Now, for those of you who do tools, that's great. You already knew this. But for those of us who are not tool people, I had to have somebody tell me what this was. But this lets you make a hole in the lid the right size. So this is a 3-inch hole saw because I use 3-inch neck cuts, but they come in other sizes. Okay, so kitchen scale. That's if you use that Master Blend fertilizer that I use, you need a way to measure it. It comes with a 5-gallon recipe. It's on the bag. But anyway, it's 12 grams of this, 6 grams of this, 12 grams of something else. And so a kitchen scale is the way to do it. I do have a reference that the guy used teaspoons or something. I wouldn't recommend that. So kitchen scale, but everybody's got one in your kitchen. And if you don't, you need one. In this state, in this community, our water is extremely high pH. How do I know? Well, 2 reasons. One is that the root ball of my cucumbers have been reduced. I didn't figure that out until I went back and read all the directions. But the pH of the fertilizer, when you get done, should be between, for most plants, between 5.5 and 6.5. The water out of my faucet came out at 8.9. So I went, is there something wrong with my water? I went to my neighbor, Ella, and her pH, I got a sample of her water, and I didn't do anything with it for like over a week because I was busy. And I measured it yesterday, it was 8.6. So if you get a bucket of water and you leave it in your kitchen open, if it's like mine, it went from 8.9 to 8.6 because all the chemicals are volatilizing. If you have an aquarium, you know what I'm talking about. So I don't have a way to collect reliably rainwater, so distilled water is going to be like 7 or close to 7. So if you wanted to do that, you could, or you could measure the water and then add vinegar and drop the pH, which is what I'm going to suggest. If you have a lot of hydroponics in a small confined area, the humidity is going to be very high. So if you have this outside, you don't have to worry about that probably. But if you have it inside, then you may want to have a fan to kind of keep things flowing. I don't have that. An EC meter is an electroconductivity meter. If you have regular hydroponics, you absolutely will want to have it. Kratky doesn't need it, but I bought one because I wanted to see what it was like. And this is a way of measuring the how concentrated the fertilizer is. Kratky's simpler than that. If you follow the directions for how to solubilize it, you're going to be fine. Okay, how to set up a Kratky system. You need to grow or acquire seedlings somehow. You need to prepare a bucket or a growth bin. And the, you know, the whole saw, net cup, full size bucket, all right? And then you need to prepare the hydroponic nutrients, add hydroponic nutrients to the water and adjust the pH to somewhere between 5.5 and 6.5. And if your pH is closer to, like, say 7.5 or 8, it'll grow, but you won't get the kind of growth you should have gotten. I know that now. It was my pH. I'm positive that was the issue. I spent I bought a pH meter just to practice it. And it turns out that if I have a 5-gallon bucket of water out of my kitchen sink and I use 6 teaspoons of white vinegar, that's going to drop the pH close enough to 6. And add the hydroponic solution master blend, that's going to get me something livable. What I'm trying to do is say you could go real high tech, but you don't have to. It's water out of your sink with a little bit of vinegar, a little bit of fertilizer, put it in a bucket. So then you add the nutrients to the bucket, you transfer the seedlings to net cups so that they're sitting in the net cup and they're supported by whatever matrix you've got them in. And then you got to make sure that the seedling hits the fertilizer solution. Now, when you put them in there, the roots aren't that long. These things have been in, this has been in this starter cup for way too long. And then you put it in a suitable solution, a suitable location, you know, like a sunny window, out on your patio, you know, in your grandchild's bedroom on the dresser, any of that stuff. And then you watch for pests. And that happens. You need to make sure the nutrients, so yes, ma'am.
But earlier it said you don't have any pests.
No, I said it's soil pests. You will get pests if you put enough rocks in there, for example, to hold the plant up, but there's holes in this net cup. And if one falls out on the floor, as we know they happen, and there's a little air hole, and this is outside, a mosquito will get in there. And if you have cucumbers in a 60-gallon barrel and you don't open it very often and you go to check the volume of the solution, you're going to get hit with a cloud of mosquitoes. I'm speaking to you out of experience. Yes, ma'am. You know, it won't.
What's the question?
The question is, mosquitoes invaded a cucumber barrel. What if I had put a dunk in there? Well, this was a few years ago. This is not a mistake I make again. This is a closed system. So that mosquito should not have gotten in there. I just didn't notice it. You know, and you probably could, but I don't know that I would want to eat I know that doesn't have anything that's toxic to me, but I would prefer not to eat a cucumber that had been growing in that dunk thing. You could, absolutely, but I don't want to put that in my mouth. So, so now, and then after, you do need to monitor this for pests. If you have it outside, you're gonna get whatever airborne things might come to, if it's a cucumber, or airborne thing, if it's a brassica, you know, you're gonna have to watch for those moths. You're still gonna have to watch for those things. If you have it inside, you don't have to watch for that, you watch for other things, you know, greenhouse issues. Make sure the nutrient solution doesn't run out. With the barrels, it's like this. With these things, I kind of lift it up, and sometimes I just look inside. You want to protect it from flooding in the rain. They will, if their plants are pretty far along, they will drown and they will die. And then you harvest it, and that's the best part. This was one of my experiments with the Lawrence water, but I already told you that the pH was really high. I've done that more than once. And I found most recently that if I have 5 gallons of fertilizer and I use 5 teaspoons of white vinegar, a teaspoon is 5 mils, and I was doing all of my experiments with pipettes, so I had to do some conversions. And if you don't have a pH meter, throw 5 teaspoons of white vinegar into 5 gallons of water if you're on city water. Otherwise, test it just to make sure that your faucet's the same as mine, but mine's the same as the lady across the street. I'm going to recommend food safe containers to grow food. You can buy 5-gallon buckets, which are usually most what you probably need the most if you're going to do this, from hydroponic supply stores, and pay a lot of money for that. Restaurant supply stores, that's also expensive. I've also bought them at Home Depot, Lowe's, and Menards. They do have 5-gallon food safe buckets. Some people use canning jars. I'm not one of those. I'm not a canning jar person, but you could grow them because you don't really need anything very big. You can use recycled food containers from restaurants, bakeries, and delis. They would be happy for you to recycle for them. These are 2-gallon icing buckets. I kind of went crazy in collecting buckets. I got those at bakeries, 2-gallon, and they also, the bakeries I was going to also had 4-gallon icing buckets. They didn't have as many of those, but all I had to do was clean them up. And they had ugly labels on them. I don't like that. So I tried everything in the world to get those labels off, and I'm going to tell you how to do it. Frisco. I tried WD-40. I tried soap. But anyway. So I shellacked them with Frisco. I laid a paper towel over it, and several hours later, I was able to scrape them off. And that's how I got the, but you don't have to do that. I just was obsessed. Yes, ma'am.
Does it have to be painted or something?
Great question. Thank you. I meant to say something about that. Our water has algae in it. You don't see it, but if you've ever put water in a glass jar and left your roots in there for a while, algae will grow. So it doesn't hurt the plants, but it's gross. And so if you have it opaque, that reduces the amount of algae. And this is really prettier than, you know, Dylan's Mondo, you know, disco, you know, whatever. But isn't this cute? She is just adorable. This is that yellow hat micro tomato. I love this girl. All right. Recycle food containers, restaurants, and then we're learning a lot about my diet. I consume yogurt in those 1-pound containers. And these are ideal for taking a baby seedling, getting it in a net cup, and getting it adjusted. Because let's face it, it's much cheaper to put a couple of cups of fertilizer in than to do 2 or 5 gallons and find out the thing doesn't thrive. So this is my interim. I've done milk jugs. Say it again. Great. I'm going to show you pictures in just a minute. The question was, how do I keep seeds inside the net pot? Milk jugs. I have used, okay, so my husband drinks 2 gallons of milk a week. So we have an enormous amount. How am I doing on time? Am I just editorializing? 1 gallon milk jugs. I have done that in those, and the moss will grow. One time I used aluminum foil, covered it, and the other time I flipped it over and sprayed it black. And that was better. They're not pretty, so I don't like them. I like this bakery thing better. This is why it's cheaper than getting all that hydroponic set up. Plants. We're going to talk about, yes, ma'am. Coffee. If it's the plastic one, I think you would be fine. I think of coffee can, but not coffee cans, not like metal. Yeah, I don't think I would do that. Where do you get your plants? So, okay, so my confession, I bought seedlings. You know, I bought seedlings and they worked just fine. And if you're doing it for the first time and you don't want to be worried with a lot of details, buy a seedling. It doesn't hurt. You know, that any of the herbs that will grow in water, any kale, that would work. Broccoli will probably work, but remember it has to flower. So anyway, I can recommend kale. This is fabulous, and people actually eat kale. I don't know so much about that stuff. It might. We'll see. You could take cuttings. You can take cuttings from your basil. You can take cuttings from whatever you take it from, and they will grow in there. Or you can grow your own, and that's what I'm going to talk about next. Seedling, you all have grown seedlings, and I grew kale. My basement was full because I wanted to make sure I was prepared. I grew kale in those peat pellets. I grew cucumbers in rock wool. And for cucumbers, that was perfect because there's a little, you looked on both sides. One side was flat, one side had a little divot in it. You put it in the divot, put it in one of those holder thingies and put hydroponic solution in it. After a few days, the seed comes up. After the first true leaf comes up, it's ready to go into a net cup. The one on the far right is a tomato that I had in perlite, and I just didn't like it. It got kind of algae-ish. You know, it's fine. I've got it growing at home, but I don't like it. The one thing I did with the rock wool was I didn't trust my seeds, and I wanted to make sure they were in there, and I planted too many seeds. They all came up. And you cannot pull those extras out of the rock wool like you can out of peat. That just sacrificed the roots. So I am definitely going to use rock wool for those where I'm being real careful in planting. But I'm not really careful in planting. This is what it looked like. The thing on the left was a setup. It was really good. I could water underneath. It was fabulous. On the right, I've got the different kinds of seedlings I had growing. This is what it looked like. I don't know if you can see the roots. Can you see the roots on the rock wool? Okay, so I took that thing and I put it in a net cup. And you can see the roots starting to come out. What what I did not take a picture of is when I added the pebbles in there, because cucumbers to get quite large and they need more support than that. So I filled in that whole net cup with pebbles. You can, if you're being more complicated and you wanted to have, this is a list of things that grow well in hydroponics. There is a source of information on the best pH, the best EC, which is the concentration of fertilizer. You don't need this, but if you want it, I've got a list of resources. So we're going to get back to those things. Mosquitoes, beware. Big rain, beware. If you have black barrels and they're going to be 60 gallons in this heat, I'm going to recommend you paint them white. And you can, if you're artistic, and I'm not, you can paint flowers on them and they can be really cool looking. One of the mistakes I made last year was, because I needed help doing it, I didn't set up my trellises soon enough for cucumbers. So my chickens got a chance to get in them and it was a major event. So I have a note to myself this year, when I put the cucumbers out, I'm going to put the trellises out. And that can either be the one that was in the garden, in the demo garden last year with this. That was really cool. And I appreciate the guys who put it up. Good job. But you can also use just fencing or something like that to, like, just if you're growing cucumbers. If you mess up your hydroponic solution and it's too dilute, plants won't grow as well. If it is too concentrated, you can get leaf burn. That's around the edges. So just be careful with your chemistry. I have a gazillion references. I'm going to give you the 3 that I think are going to be the most useful if you decide, oh gosh, that is like the best thing I ever heard. There is a YouTube video by a guy on the MI Michigan, MI Gardener YouTube channel, complete Kratky hydroponics setup start to finish. And if you only look at one thing, that will get you to where you need to be. If, on the other hand, you're more of an info geek, then there's a small scale hydroponics from the University of Minnesota Extension, which is very extensive. It has information on lighting, if you want to do lighting in the house, on the chemistry, on it's a quick survey of different versions of hydroponics. And it does mention Kratky, but it's really focused on the other types. I mentioned the K-Stay Garden Hour, December 24th, is a survey of the traditional hydroponics for home gardeners. He did a fabulous job. If this is something you are interested in doing and you want to do it with somebody, some little person or some other person who doesn't garden, then the YouTube video, that first one, is the one to look at. It will show you how to handle his plants and everything. If you have questions, I'm Kathy Savage. I'm in the directory. Do you have any? Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a preference personally? Do you prefer the indoors version or outdoors, or does it matter by plant?
So I do it outdoors. My house is pretty shady. I mean, I do have right now, my basement is full of little seedlings and chicks, but I'm really looking forward to moving everybody outside. The cucumbers have to be outside. They just have to be. That's too big. And I have a deck that I can put. I'll do basil up there as soon as the deck's getting painted, so I can't put it out yet. But we plan to have hydroponic basil out in the demo garden this year again. We had it last year. We're gonna do something else instead of cucumbers. So we have a different experiment going out there. Yes, ma'am. Yes. It was fill the neck cup up to the top, so there are no holes in there. So here, like, this is what I mean. This is a guarantee. See the little hole in there? That is a guarantee mosquito contamination. So before I put these things out, I'm gonna make sure all those little holes in the neck cup are covered. Yeah, I only make those mistakes once. The rock wool, not rock wool, the clay pebbles. If they don't see it, they can't get there. Now, there is one other thing I do. For those that particularly the cucumbers, because that's a big investment, 60 gallons, that's a big investment. So if we're gonna get a big rain, I put a kitchen towel over the whole thing around it to minimize the flooding. You know, we get pretty serious rains here, but that was from when I used to have them outside in hurricanes. And that will just slam. And if that happens, if they, you know, if the roots are down exposed this much, because cucumbers will go down, you know, like that. So it rains up and overflows, then I got to dismantle that thing and take some out, because it needs to be, air roots need to be available. But that also means I need to put in some more fertilizer. And so I had that EC meter. That's what this is, a pH. Now, the only reason I practically would ever want to use an EC meter, that's what this is. This is a pH meter, and a pH meter, and a, you know, a zippity doodah, because I'm the mom and I get to order things off Amazon. That would be the only real reason why Kratky was clear. But I'm going to say I did it just fine for years without it. But pH we do need here. You know, you absolutely could. I'm going for the fewest steps possible. Oh, yeah, so the pickle barrels, and I'm going to recommend they be screw top, because one of the problems I ran into with the barrel we had last year, that's the bunghole ones, I could not see what was in there. I mean, I could feel it, but I couldn't see it, and I couldn't measure it. And that was, you know, I think those are ideal for rain barrels, but just the screw top ones are much better, because I want to see what's going on with my roots from time to time. So this one, I'm going to try it. This is about a full-grown micro tomato. So if I leave it in this jar, and I probably will, because I want to see how long it will go, I'll open the jar up from time to time and add fertilizer to right here. And I found that to get a container big enough to grow what I want to grow, I would have to have ginormous things. And I would rather just, you know, put fertilizer in here from time to time. It's not a big deal. But the answer is yes. I put them in. This is intended to go into a 27-gallon tote. And I'll have her with 3 of her sisters. I'll have 4 in there. And that's a bigger container just because it's more convenient and cool. And I have a whole lot of those. Yes, sir. This I do not. The problem I ran into with the Kratky tomato I had a 27-gallon bucket, but I had it on my deck because that's where the sun was. And I didn't have a way to support it. And so I'm trying another tomato this year, but I haven't figured out. So now it's in a 2-gallon bucket and it's like, but it's inside the house. I got to figure out a good way to hold it up. And what I'm thinking is I might put it next to the cucumbers so I can use the cucumber trellis to hold the tomato. I don't know how I'm going to do that. So that's a really good question. Yes, ma'am. Okay, what do you got? Uh-huh. With strings? You know, I might try that because I've got some T-posts that would be suitable. The challenge I have with that is you have to take care of that. And I'm not really good at that. So we'll see. You have to be very disciplined to use those because I've not been as successful as I would have liked to have been with that approach. But I might give that a try. That's a good idea. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You can online to any hydroponic supply. I have bought them from Walmart online, from Amazon online, and I've even found some of this stuff at Amazon, at Walmart when I walked through. Now, I only saw it once, so don't count on that. Online is going to be safer. And I don't know, do we have a hydroponic store in town? Now, are they the clay pebbles because they have, or are they just, okay. I didn't know how to say that word. I think it's Lecci or something like that. Oh, that's a great idea. They just opened up, didn't they? And they're gonna have, they have invited, I've talked to them, they're gonna have invited speakers once a month. And once I get set and they have a platform. So the name is Botanica, is that right? Botanical Dream.